Oh, welcome back to another edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. And there is a passing to note, being that I had pre-recorded the Karloff thing yesterday, I didn't get to put this in, but June Lockhart, star of Lassie, Lost in Space, has passed away at age 100. June made it 100 years. I had a lot of interaction with June back in the day with the Chiller Theater conventions, as she was an early guest, and pretty much June was a piece of work, let me tell you. I picked her up at the airport, and I was, back then I always drove a van, which worked out well because these people always had a lot of luggage and shit they were selling and stuff. So I picked her up at the airport, and she ragged on me all the way to the hotel to put on my seatbelt. Well, I'm not a big fan of seatbelts. Actually, I'm not a big fan of being told what to do. That's why I didn't wear the seatbelt because, whatever. I'm just like that. But anyway, I had to take her back to the airport after the show. It was a Monday morning. And I had the promoter, Kevin, in the back, and she was in the front seat. As soon as I got in the truck, she goes, "You going to put on your seatbelt?" And I said, "Yeah, June, if it makes you happy, I'll put on my seatbelt." So I put on the seatbelt, and we're pulling into the terminal at what was then Newark Airport. I don't know what it is now. When somebody cuts me off right in front of me. And what does June say? "What a fucking asshole." And I slam on my brakes, I turn around and I say, "Did I hear Lassie's mom just call someone a fucking asshole?" And she started giggling and shit like that. I said, "You know something, June, you're all right." And June will be missed. June was a big advocate for the LGBTQ community and for space exploration. And like I said, she was a piece of work, fun to deal with, quirky, whatever, but she will be missed. So now, I said I would take you south of the border again, but there's a backstory to this whole thing. I don't know if anybody's from New Jersey that will remember the Peter Pan Motel on Route 6, a quickie motel. Anyway, at some point in the early 70s, I had picked up some woman in a bar, and we sort of bonded over alcohol and weed, and went down to the Peter Pan Motel where I rented the bridal suite, and yeah, right. Actually, the Peter Pan Motel had been robbed, and the desk clerk had been killed. So when we checked in, there was two rather large gentlemen standing in the lobby, guarding the receptionist or the clerk or whatever the hell she was. So anyway, thing with me is, after I have hot, sweaty sex, where most people usually pass out, I'm wide awake, and my companion for that evening passed out. So it's around hitting the midnight hour, and I'm flicking through what passed for the TV in the motel, and of course there was IWA Championship Wrestling on Channel 9, so I watched that. Now we're fading off till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm skimming through the channels, and I hit Channel 5. And there's this weird-ass movie just starting called The Man and the Monster, which is obviously Mexican. So it starts off with this blonde getting into a car, smashing into a tree for some reason, going to this house where she hears piano music playing, bangs on the door. In the meantime, this reporter or writer pulls up behind her wrecked car, pretty bitchy about the fact that she blocked the road, when the woman comes staggering back, her face all clawed and bloody, and basically passes out and falls down. The guy runs back to the house. Instead of helping her in the car and taking her somewhere, runs to the house to see if they're willing to help her, which this older woman answers the door and tells him to go away. Well, she gets back and the woman's dead. So his original deal was to interview this concert pianist who lived in this house, who's now training a young protege. And the guy says he'll never play again. This is who's playing. He points to the woman and stuff like that. Well, something happens and he wants to play late at night, and his mother goes, "I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen when you made the deal with Lucifer." What happened was he wanted to be the greatest concert pianist in the world, so he basically sold his soul to the devil and killed who was the greatest concert pianist in the world, this woman, and stashed her body in a closet so she can hear him play all the time. Trick is, when he plays, he turns into this werewolf-like thing with the W.C. Fields wino-type nose. So here's the thing where he's basically, training this protege, and he can't play, and he knows he's the greatest concert pianist in the world, and his mother's putting up with this shit. So finally, when it's her turn to become, to play in this concert, he decides to kill her. which sort of tips his mother over the edge, and mom sort of takes her son out. So that was the first movie I saw, and this was late on Channel 5 or something like that. It seems like American International Pictures was picking up a lot of weird foreign movies to fill late night slots, because the programming was running later and later into the early morning hours. So this thing came on, another one, The Vampire's Coffin, an American International television release right after The Man and the Monster. Man and the Monster was like 1959, I believe. The Vampire's Coffin was 1958. What I didn't know, and I found out later, it was a sequel to The Vampire. The Vampire is played by this actor, German Robles, and is directed and written by Abel Salazar, who stars in this thing, actually as one of the scientists. It seems that this one scientist decided to bring a vampire back and has a stake through its heart and is going to do some experiments. However, the idiot that he hired to help him wants to get paid off and notices this medallion around the vampire's chest, and that's circling the stake. So of course he's got to sneak back in, yank out the stake. This guy comes back to life, yada yada yada, makes him his Renfield, and is out to get people from the first movie. So he basically lures the doctor and the sister of someone he killed in the first movie to this wax museum, where basically he strangles the doctor, and the woman is lured into an Iron Maiden and killed by his assistant, and then the vampire tells him to incinerate their remains so they can't be found. So he's after this other woman, and she's in the hospital, and he keeps stalking her and biting a couple other people on the way in, and then gets her at this concert recital, where there's a big battle between the good doctor and the Renfield type guy and the catwalks. Now, the police have been informed, but are poo-pooing this whole thing off. And this is a really weird-ass vampire. He just pops up and reappears in certain places, then turns into a bat with a string attached to it. He's battling the hero at the end, and he goes, now you'll know how to fight a vampire, and he turns into a bat and he disappears and shit. And then the guy's throwing spears at him, and actually the bat catches the wall and the spear impales him, pinning him to the wall. That ends the movie and ends our torment, because this, I don't know, some of it's atmospheric, other aspects of it are complete schlock and bad acting, and of course completely bad dubbing. So that was, I believe, 1950, was it 58, I think? Yeah, 58 that came out, and the other vampire one came out in 57. I guess there was a slew of these sold to late night TV. I just went over a bunch of them. And, well, that's our show for today. We'll be back tomorrow with some oozing creatures that you'll appreciate. And before I end this today, a big shout out to Kyle in the Sanctuary. Bro, I know things are bad. I know things aren't great, but hang in there, man. I hate to lose people, and a lot of people are just so fucked up over what's happening that they're really having trouble hanging on, including myself. And I do this as a venue so you guys have something to break up the fucking misery of the day. So my friend and all my friends out there, hang in there. I don't know what to expect next. This is something Roger Corman couldn't even have conceived of. So we just got to keep fighting this idiot. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Above all, stay safe, and we'll catch you tomorrow, like I said, for some oozing creatures.